Now in this example, we're going to look at how to draw a frequency polygon. And it's similar to a histogram, but rather than using the class boundaries, we're going to use the midpoints to plot. And then we're also going to use line segments instead of bars. But in both cases, our y value is going to be the frequency. We're graphing the frequency. Now, sometimes the midpoints will be provided for you when you're trying to do this, and other times not. In this example, I did not provide the midpoint so that we could practice. So just a quick refresher, to find the midpoint, you want to take the minimum value, add the maximum value, and divide by 2. Okay, now I'm going to make an XY chart here. I'm going to leave a space because we have to add something in at the beginning and the end. But my y value, what we're going to graph when we make our polygon, the y value is going to be the frequency. So that's going to be the 2, 6, 12, 8, and 4. Then we always have to start and end on the x-axis. So we're going to put in a starting and an ending point. So when we do that, our y value is going to be 0. It's going to start and end on the y-axis. So here's our start point, and then here's our ending point. Now, the x-axis is going to be our midpoints. And that we have to find because that's not given to us. All right, so to find the midpoint, remember we take the minimum and the maximum, we add it together and divide by 2. So to start off, I'm going to take 0 and 9, add them together and get 9, divide by 2, and I'm going to get 4.5. So the midpoint that goes with the frequency of 2 is 4.5. Then the frequency that goes with 6, I'm going to take, the midpoint that goes with the frequency 6, I take 10 plus 19, that gives me 29. I divide by 2, and that's going to give me 14.5. Then the midpoint that goes with 12, I'm going to take 20 plus 29, that's going to give me 49. And then I divide that by 2, and I get 24.5. All right, then the midpoint that goes with 8, I'm going to take 30 plus 39. That gives me 69. I'm going to divide by 2, and that gives me 34.5. And then the last midpoint I have for the frequency of 4, I'm going to take 40 and 49. That gives me 89. And then when I divide that by 2, I'm going to get 44.5. Now at this point, you'll see a pattern. As I come down, I keep adding 10. That's because we have a class width of 10 here. Now our starting point and our ending point is going to be based on our class width. We're going to extend our class width in either direction. So to get our ending point, I'm going to add another 10 and get 54.5. Now, for our starting point, we have to go backwards, and I'm going to subtract 10 from 4.5, and that's going to give me a negative 5.5. So that's going to give me my starting point and my ending point. I'm just going to extend my class width in either direction. All right, so now we're going to make our graph. Our x-axis is going to be where we graph our midpoints. So since we're graphing everything from negative 5.5 up to 54.5, I want to label on my axis, let's go by 5. So I'm going to start at negative 10, negative 5, here's 0. And then I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Oops, I didn't mean 40, I meant 30. 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, and I did not leave myself enough room. Let me extend a little bit more. 55. So here's my X. Now for my y, I'm graphing my frequencies. So my lowest is 2 and my highest frequency is 12. So let's go out by, let's say 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we want to make sure that we scale this appropriately. That way it's not too zoomed in or too zoomed out, too squished in. We want to make sure that it contains all the numbers within a reasonable range. Now, the last part is to just start plotting these points that we found here. We found the midpoints, the start point and the end point, and we're just pairing it up with the frequency. So my first point is -5.50. So it's going to be about right here, a little bit past -5 in the negative direction. So there's my starting point. Then I'm going to graph the point 4.52. So 4.52 is about right here. And then we connect it with a line segment. Then we're going to graph the point 14.5 and 6. So that would be about right here and connect it with a line segment. Then 24.5 with the frequency of 12. That's going to be our highest point. Then we're going to graph 34.5 with the frequency of 8. So that would be about right here. Connect the dots. And then 44.5 with the frequency of 4. So about right here. And then our ending point at 54.50. So we made sure that we started on the x-axis and we stopped on the x-axis. Now this is very similar to an ogive. With an ogive, you have to start on the x-axis, although it doesn't finish on the x-axis because it keeps going up. And we want to leave it that way because it's an increasing graph because we're adding up all the frequencies. So with an ogive, the only difference is you don't end on the x-axis, you just start on the x-axis. But with the frequency polygon, you start and stop on the x-axis. So a quick summary of what we just did. So the first thing is make sure we have our midpoints. If we don't, we have to calculate them. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to find our start and end points by extending the class width on each side of the entire interval. So go to the left of your minimum point and to the right of your minimum point by your maximum point by 1 class width, so that you're starting and ending on the x-axis. Then you want to plot all of your points from left to right, connecting the dots as you go along with your line segments. Making sure, this is one thing I didn't do yet, and I'm glad I caught this. I did not label my x and my y axis. I scaled it nicely, which we're supposed to, but I did forget to label it. So let's do that. So my y-axis is going to be my frequency, so that's labeled. My x-axis represents the hours, so I want to make sure that I write that down here as hours. So that's also important when you're drawing something by hand. Make sure that you label your axes so that whoever is reading your graph knows what they're reading about.